Hey, hey, everybody! How you doing? That was some wild shit, right? Welcome to the show. Today's Thursday, January 7th. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
Uh, Kind of regretting that they put sober January at the worst fucking month of all time for
Buddy, yeah. Honestly, you should have known better. I'm gonna give
it. Yeah.
yeah, not the time to be sober, or maybe no, it's not the time to be sober.
Yeah, no, I want to feel every moment of this, Trey. Every
You're
fucking.
right. Yeah, feel it to your bones, every waking moment of it. That's the best way to experience this fucking month. Uh, let's do the show. With us as always, producer Matt doing his thing. This is Evening Skews. Got a good show for you tonight. You'll be surprised to hear it's mostly focused on fat, stupid, white 9/11 or whatever you want to call the bullshit that went down yesterday. A lot to unpack there, and we'll do our best to unpack it as much as we can. But first, as always, we must begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, let's do it. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to y'all. We struggled with this one because I feel like you'll agree. Past 48 hours, 36 hours, whatever in this country, mostly dumbass, like really almost entirely dumbass the past 36 to 48 hours in this country. So it made it hard to us to dial down on just one daily dumbass. We ultimately decided to take it to the root of it all because all these dumbasses in DC playing their dumbass games, doing their dumbass things for their dumbass reasons. And frankly, I'd sooner lasso the moon than try to understand it all. But I think we can all agree that at the core of it, it comes down to they were there to install their chosen God Emperor as the dictator of America for the foreseeable future. So, after a day that ended with blood, sweat, tears, loss of life, and all other manners of lunacy, we thought it appropriate to look at how the day began and how it began with the man himself, their chosen king, and what he was saying to rally his troops. And this clip is, at least in part, some of that rallying cry. Matt, play the clip.
And I had to beat Oprah. Used to be a friend of mine. You know, I was on her last show, or last week. She picked the 5 outstanding people. I don't think she thinks that anymore. Once I ran for president, I didn't notice there were too many calls coming in from Oprah. Believe it or not, she used to like me, but I was one of the 5 outstanding people.
Well, Mark, how could you not be inspired to foment a revolution by one of Oprah's 5 coolest people of 2011 or whatever the hell that was supposed to be about? Like,
One,
inspiring stuff.
I don't believe him that he was on her last week as one of her 5 impressive people. Like he's been, it's like one of those things. Like he every time he's in Michigan, he claims to have won Michigan Man of the Year, which is an award that doesn't exist. But he's just a real man of the people. You know, it's just like he just. What you want in your populists is a guy who really wants to hang out with Oprah. But if you're going to pick a God Emperor from the Oprah cinematic universe, you could have had Dr. Drew or Dr. Oz or Jenny McCarthy, right? Tom Cruise jumping up and down on a couch, right? You had other options.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's the thing is it's like this is again, this is their guy. This is who all of this shit was about. That guy. And he inspires these people to a level of bloodlust with everything he says. And this is the type of shit that he says in those speeches. Like you think of like movies like Patton and stuff like that, where they have their big their big pet rally speech moment that gets everybody behind them, or hell, even the president in Independence Day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like compared to this, like this is Trump's version of that because every speech he ever has this type of shit in it, and I will just never be able to understand how this man in particular has just
Yeah.
gotten straight to the core of so many stupid people in this country. Stupid, angry people. It's wild.
Bill Pullman was trying to get people fired up to fight back an alien invasion so the human race could survive. Trump get these people just as fired up to try because they don't want to hear people speaking Spanish in the grocery store. Like that's
Right.
that's,
Right. Yes.
that's their alien invasion.
But we're being unfair because let's get into our daily dumbass honorable mentions here. And the first honorable mention is anybody out there who actually believes that yesterday was Donald Trump's fault. Of course, it wasn't Donald Trump's fault. If you don't believe that, former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin will explain to you whose fault it actually is. Matt, play the
Next
Palin.
guest says that she is outraged over the, quote, insincere fake D.C. patriots who showed up today. Former Alaska governor and former GOP vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin joins me now.
Keep in mind, we don't know who all were the instigators in this, of these horrible things that happened today. I think a lot of it is the Antifa folks. I've been sent pictures of the same characters whom were captured on images today storming the Capitol, as had been in protests on the other side of politics earlier in the summer. So I don't know, there's a lot of questions out there, and I wish we could trust the media to do its job, to go research, report who all these people are.
Mark, what can Antifa not do? That's what I want to know. Like, I'm starting to think they should just replace the CIA with Antifa. They are such an effective, shadowy black ops organization. I mean, I feel like even on the other side at this point, you've got to start just giving your respect to Antifa for how effective they are. Because, I mean, because of course I'm part of Antifa, we have our hands in everything at this point. We're doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing some shifts in accounts receivable at Soros headquarters, and I really appreciate the work you guys are doing out in the streets. I don't understand. Like, it's always been that way. The paranoid style in American conservatism, where like there's always a boogeyman behind everywhere. Like the American Civil Rights Movement was communist. It couldn't just be that black people were upset about being second-class citizens in their own country. There had to be communists behind it. It's always like this weird other out to get you. But like I'm trying to figure out what they think happened. I mean, we'll get to it later in the show, I think. But there's a bunch of people who have spent all day denying their Antifa because they've been Trump loyalists the whole time, and now they're getting roasted by their compatriots online for letting down the cause. But
right. It's funny how like it's wild, kind of how every aspect of Trump's leadership kind of trickles down throughout it all. And what I mean is, like, how many people have we seen be part of Trump's like inner circle and then get thrown directly under the fucking bus at the first opportunity that Trump has? And then that's exactly what's happening with a lot of these COUP people too right now after this attempted coup. Because like you said, of course they were going to make it be about Antifa. No, really, that was Antifa. Well, you got to have a face for that. Mm-hmm. So inevitably, some of these true patriots are going to get painted by their own red-blooded patriotic brothers and sisters in arms as Antifa traitors, and it's just it's such a shame that happens to them.
The closest I could find to an actual left-winger among them, there was one dude who went viral who's like a left-wing streamer who embedded himself with him to cover the protests, and he's getting floated around as an Antifa organizer, and he's just some grifter who's raising money off his Venmo or whatever by live streaming these protests. But I can't find anyone who actually things are what they seem to be. Like they were wearing.
Right, well, but don't tell Fox News that, Matt. We got a graphic, right? Fox News, every one of their all three of Fox News's like big primetime hitters in their shows have come out claiming that really it was Antifa behind this. And also they said if it wasn't it, no matter who, it was Antifa. B, whoever it was, really it was America's fault. America had this coming. Yeah. Yes. All furthermore,
primetime hosts, along with the bedroom Newsmax, they've been pushing it that it was Antifa activists who spurred on the mob to make Trump and his supporters look bad. Which is like Trump has been tweeting, "Come to Washington on January 6th." We saw the fucking footage from the flight yesterday where they were heckling Mitt Romney on the night before the protest headed to D.C. I saw screen grabs from Parler where people couldn't find parking. Like, these are Trump supporters that went there looking for trouble, and like it just is. I don't know, man. We've undone the Enlightenment, and people just believe whatever they want to believe now. It's magic and wizards and
well, it's also like and again, I know this is completely par for the course where Trump is concerned. This is part of the like narcissist prayer or whatever that thing is they call, where it's like, oh, I didn't do that. Oh, if I did do that, it wasn't my fault. Oh, if it was my fault, it wasn't that bad. Oh, if it was that bad, then you had it coming or
Yeah.
whatever. I paraphrase. There's a whole bunch of steps in there. And I know that's like totally Trump's wheelhouse. But this argument of, first of all, it was Antifa who did all the bullshit. But also, just so you know, all that bullshit completely warranted and America had it coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how are both things true at the same time? But like I said, I know that's what they do, but it's just.
Well, that's what happens when you believe that Trump and Q are God's perfect angels, because therefore they can do no wrong. So if something goes bad, there must be someone else to blame for it, right?
Yes. But Trump is, of
like,
course, fully behind this investigation into the Antifa radicals who caused this. Matt, we got the some screen grabs there for that from Twitter, talking about sources who know about where Trump's mind is at on the Antifa rumors. He wants people to look into the rumors of Antifa radicals infiltrating the MAGA protest and riot this week. That's from Matthew Gertz on Twitter with apparent sources. But so they went through this whole process. Conservative America went through this. They went through a real roller coaster yesterday.
Yeah.
That ended with where we are right now, which is, oh, that was all Antifa. But of course, that's not where it started. And everybody's favorite Jesus-loving Hercules, Kevin Sorbo, actually kind of inadvertently gave a nice summation of the emotional journey that Trump-loving conservatives went on yesterday. Matt, you throw up the Kevin Sorbo stuff whenever you got it. Yeah, okay. Here's number one. Number one. This is in the morning. Yeah.
What's the timestamps on these? All right, this is 10:27 a.m. It's happening.
Yesterday morning. He says it's happening about people storming the Capitol. Next up, Matt, we got 11:17 a.m., so not even a full hour later. History is being made, Kevin Sorbo wants us to know. And then 12:16 p.m., so again, about an hour later. To those storming the Capitol building, please be careful. Do not act like Antifa. Respect the police and know they are mostly on our side. They're simply trying to do their job. And then finally, less than 45 minutes later at 1 p.m., Antifa led the charge into the Capitol building dressed as Trump supporters. So that whole thing was like less than 3 hours from the beginning to the end of it. From it's happening, history is happening, unfolding before our very eyes, everyone, to this was all the Democrats and they're just doing this to make us look bad, and that was never us to begin with, in less than 3 hours' time. And that's indicative of every Trump-loving American's journey yesterday, I think.
Yeah. It's like, it's weird when you do something hoping it's going to go well, and then it doesn't. Then it goes badly. Then you got to be like, oh, I drank too much. I don't know why. It's like, I didn't mean. I was just kidding when I proposed that threesome, honey. It wasn't like I know it's your anniversary, but that isn't what I. It was just I was just joking.
All right, so I was going to say let's move on from the Daily Dumbass into like the rest of the show. But again, the whole thing is kind of Daily Dumbass. But let's just get into the specifics of it here. This little coup, Trump putting the Q in coup. It didn't go well for all of them, obviously. So again, as I mentioned earlier, actual loss of life. 4 people died, Mark. One lady shot.
5 actually. They died. They just came out that a Capitol police officer died in the hospital this afternoon. So that makes 5 total. Yeah.
Okay. Well, 5 people died before the Capitol Police officer news. It was 4 people, all protesters, rioters, whatever you want to, insurgents, whatever you want to call them. One lady got shot while trying to break into a room with actual Congress people in it by, I think, a Secret Service agent. The other 3 people were, it said they died of, quote, medical emergencies. So that could be any number of things. And let's be honest, these people, they're not the most. They don't take the best care of themselves. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of them are, sugar Americans, I think. They've got some issues, probably some breathing problems, probably some some general physical fitness problems. Their hearts are probably not the best, I would think. So there's any number of things that could have taken them out. I think it's astonishing. Well, no, it's not astonishing because the people there. It would otherwise be astonishing that only 4 of them died, given what they were doing. Like, they should count themselves lucky that they only lost 4.
I mean, I'm assuming that it was like good things don't happen. Not a lot of good things happen when 60-year-olds get tear gassed. I'm assuming that's what the mental emergency things mean. But like, it was weird. Lindsey Graham came out today and he seemed scared shitless, talking about how they could have been killed. And what he was saying that the cops should have opened fire into the crowd, which is like a conservative state being conservative like that, about cops killing people, even if it's their supporters. I don't know what to make of any of this, because personally, like, I'm against cops killing unarmed people, even when they're idiots. I'm not sure what they should have done. They should have had more manpower. Matt did some research, producer, and found that the Capitol Hill Police Force, basically they're glorified park rangers. They don't have a lot of authority or armed capability. And there's only like 2,000 of them. So even if like all 3 shifts have been called up simultaneously or however it works, they wouldn't have had enough people to hold them back. They needed the National Guard, which is the DC National Guard under the control of the Department of Defense, because it's a federal
I just think that if you, before all this happened, if you took any American on either side of it and you told them that a armed, angry mob, but don't describe it further than that, don't describe their motivations or what types of people they are or whatever, just an armed, angry mob of people stormed the Capitol building while Congress was in session and successfully got into the building, and you then ask that person, how do you think that went for them? I think pretty much any American on any end of the political spectrum would have said, they probably got shot a whole lot, I would assume. Like, probably not good. I would imagine that got shut down, because if you just, it's also stupid, and they're also stupid, that it's easy to like forget, I think, how insane of a thing that is to even attempt in the first place in any country, really. And, I mean, again, I think they got off easy.
I'm gonna try not to be a hypocrite here, because like, I remember back during the summer when Black Lives Matter took over some city halls and police stations, and I thought that was cool. So in principle, I'm not against storming a government building.
That's fair.
And if the shoe was on the other foot and Republicans controlled the House and the Senate and we're about to install Trump and overturn the Electoral College, I'd be pro people storming the Capitol.
For sure. Okay. Yes. Right. You're right about all that, and I agree with you. Yeah. I don't want to sound hypocritical either. But don't you think, though, and a million other people have pointed this out too, if it was one of those situations yesterday, if it was Black Lives Matter or what, right, exactly, or some like a Muslim group fighting for equal rights or whatever, if it was just almost anyone else, any kind of minority group or whatever who did the exact same thing, it would have gone down that way. I'm not saying they all would have gotten massacred, but there'd be a hell of a lot more than 4 casualties, I think. And that also is a huge part of this. They wouldn't even have got to that point in the first place. Okay, I want you to tell me, is this unfair or not, this idea that they were basically let in? Because I know I've seen like clips, and I know that it's like anecdotal when it's like, but I've seen clips of the Capitol Police like literally just ushering people into the Capitol pretty much. How fair is that or not, as far as what happened?
Well, there is one. I will say a lot of the like Matt pointed out, a lot of the criticism is unfair because there was one that went mega viral of them moving the barricades. But the Capitol Hill Police probably did the best they could.
Yeah, here
it is. Pretty incriminating. I don't know if you saw that, but the cop ran over, and that wasn't the one that went bigger viral, but that one's more incriminating. The cop literally, the gates are already open. He runs up and is like, "Come on, guys, we're going!" Like he's like egging them on, which is bad. But a lot of cops are deeply right-wing Trump supporters, so it's not like super shocking.
Yeah, there was a funny. I wish I could remember who it came from. I'm sorry. I wish I had the source, but it was just one of the million tweets I saw yesterday where someone tweeted, all y'all that are asking where are the cops at during all this, it's like, what the hell do you ask where is Miley at when Hannah Montana's on stage? Like, they're the same fucking people, which I thought was funny. But I mean, there's some truth to that.
But the Capitol Hill police chief he's tendered his resignation effective the 16th. It didn't, I mean, those guys, they fucked up. They had a bad day at work. But they probably did the main thing they needed to do, which was stall for a few minutes to give Congress time to not get murdered and get out of the way, because the vice president was there, as was the vice president elect. So Secret Service, you can't run up on the Secret Service.
No, you cannot. You cannot run up on the Secret Service. That's a generally accepted principle of running up on people.
But it is Trump's incompetence sometimes disguises his like we don't use a clarity of language to stuff, but like Trump had control of the National Guard and he held them back to give his paramilitary force time to seize the legislature. If that happened in Cairo, what would we call it? Right.
It's
a coup.
A coup, yeah.
And some of these people were armed. They put bullet holes and shit. They wrecked a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't cool. But like I said, if the shoe was on their foot, and BLM and Antifa and a bunch of union guys overtook the Capitol to stop, the Republicans from installing Trump for a second term, and put their feet up on Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy's desk and took a shit in Mitch McConnell's world's #1 grandpa mug, I would think that was fucking fantastic. So,
well, but on that note, it goes back to what we were saying. If any other group did this, there would have been a whole lot more casualties. And I think that it's evident that that was the expectation on the part of the terrorists. They fully expected to be able to just walk in and do whatever the hell they wanted to. And you can tell that because of all the myriad examples of them just publicizing these acts of sedition that they are committing without a second's thought. Like here's one with Nick Fuentes in Baked Alaska live streaming themselves in Pelosi's office.
Yeah,
there you go. There's this is one of my favorites. I don't know if we have the actual clip or not, but I'm sort of from Knoxville. It's where I started comedy. I moved to LA from Knoxville. I lived there for 7 years. One of my old hometown peoples, Elizabeth, she made a great showing yesterday. Again, just putting it all out there on Front Street.
Ma'am, what happened to you?
I got maced.
You got maced?
By the police.
And what happened? You were trying to go inside the Capitol?
Yeah, I made it like a foot inside, and they pushed me out, and they maced me.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
And why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution.
Thank you.
Trey, not only did she confess to a crime on television, but she gave her address and announced she was trying to do a revolution. So now she's getting hit with fucking sedition charge, seditious conspiracy charges. That's 20 fucking years.
Right.
I expect that Elizabeth is going to be hearing from the U.S. Attorney over the area of Eastern Tennessee or whatever, Central Tennessee.
Well, listen, on that note, as a former Knoxvillian, I would like to sit here and be like, listen, just so you guys know, Elizabeth doesn't represent the area entirely or whatever, but the county mayor is the Undertaker's brother. So, that's true. It's not a joke. Fucking mute demon Kane is the mayor in Knoxville, just fucking challenging the school board to cage matches and shit. So this chick's kind of par for the course, I think. I can't really act any otherwise. But hey, at least the football team sucks. I'm sorry.
But talking about like these people who online complain about the deep state all the time, have no understanding of how shit works or the trouble they're in. Like you want to talk about like privilege. Antifa, when they hit the streets, they leave their cell phones at home. They cover their faces. They know how to fool facial recognition. These people live streamed. They refuse to wear masks. Thank God they refuse to wear masks because they're pro COVID.
Yeah, right.
They're all pro COVIDing themselves into jail. Here's a quote that fucking floored me. This is from one of the people. This is not America. They're shooting at us. They're supposed to shoot BLM, but they're shooting the Patriots.
Dude, that's it. That sums up their whole attitude. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly it. There was also a famous, comment on a Trump tweet that went viral for its lack of self-awareness for years. It said, I just don't understand. I don't understand why he's hurting the wrong people. Like, he's hurting us. He's supposed to be hurting the other people. And that's literally how they look at it. So I was going to say, she admitted to sedition on camera and gave her name and address, like you said, but it's because she has no concept of even the notion that she's committing sedition. Like, she's a heroic patriot, a literal. She is astonished at the idea that there was opposition to what she tried to do, legitimately, and that's fucking crazy.
They had no operational security because they thought what they were doing was pro-government, which is fucking insane to me. But this is what happens when you get high on your own Karen supply. Is like I was just trying to talk to the manager of America, and I got maced for it. But these people, when they really are true believers, and it has some really bad side effects for some of them. Namely, the woman who got the worst of it, the one who was shot in the chest and died 3 hours later. Her name was Ashley, and she's an Air Force vet whose estranged husband found out she was dead from the news. So she apparently ran off from San Diego and got involved in all this shit and tried to charge into the chamber where, again, the vice president-elect were, and somebody Capitol, there's like 3 police forces there, so who knows who shot her. Soon we'll find out in a few days. But she was she was a Q lady, as a lot of these people are. And like her last tweet, I don't know if we have it ready to go, but she did giveaway is, she says, "Nothing will stop us. They can try, but the storm is here. But it's descending upon DCS and DC in less than 24 hours, dark to light." That's a lot of QAnon terminology in there.
Did you see the headline that quoted the first part of this tweet? I can't remember who put it out, but some publication, the headline said, "Nothing will stop us," tweets woman who was shot to death while storming the Capitol. It's like, I mean, other than bullets, I guess nothing will stop. No, I mean, also, tear gas and any number of other mechanisms would have stopped them too. But bullets in particular are pretty effective. She also said, damn it, let me find it real quick. She didn't say this. She retweeted a thing just like 3 days ago. And dude, I'm sorry, this is wild. She retweeted a tweet on, I'm pulling it up right now, on January 4th, so 2 days ago. She retweeted a tweet that says, "The president reinstates death by firing squad. Guess what the U.S. penalty for treason is? Death by firing squad. 2 + 2 = 4 the last time I checked." And I told you and Matt earlier, like, stuff like that almost makes it hard for me to go on not believing in God, like some things just line up too well. They're too wild, too coincidental for me to remain as agnostic as I am. But yeah, I don't know. That whole thing, we're both like from the South, the rural, you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead and all that, Mark, but it's just hard. It's hard for me to feel too bad. I feel bad for her children because she had children, and it ain't the kids' fault, and I feel terrible for them. But like I don't know, man. At a certain point, like, what the fuck do you expect? And she died draped in a Trump flag, right? She was wearing a Trump flag as a cape. She had a Trump cape on. Mm-hmm. How many fucks do you think Donald Trump gives about this lady?
He wouldn't pistol her if she was on fire.
Absolutely.
And one thing that the mainstream media keeps missing this stuff because I don't know whether they don't want to promote it or whatever, but to the extent I feel bad for her is that she's brainwashed, but she's self-brainwashed. And I don't just mean by Trump. I'm talking about the Q stuff. Right. Like, this stuff seems invisible to the mainstream press, but it's everywhere among these people if you look for it, and they just sort of refuse to. Like,
why do you think that is? Do you think that it's because it's like it's like hard for them to wrap their heads around how best to present it to people, or like they don't even understand it, like it's too out there or something? They think it'll seem ridiculous if they even report on these people believing this Q stuff. Like, why is it ignored to the extent that it is by the media, all this QAnon bullshit?
When you guys have time later, Google Wolf Blitzer Jeopardy and look at his negative 5,000 score, and that's one reason for it. But like our society, we get called ageist a lot for bitching about how like we're a gerontocracy. We're run by old who are out of touch, and that's like a lot of problems with that. But they just don't see this stuff. It doesn't compute to them. Like, I bitched a lot about how like the most disconcerting part of like the Ukraine call that got leaked was Trump bitching about the conspiracy theory. It's QAnon adjacent, and then they didn't even notice that the one about the server that got evicted to Ukraine or whatever. That's part of the Seth Rich conspiracy universe. It's all connected to this stuff. This was a QAnon organized coup, and
okay, right. Well, I was about to. I know you don't actually know, and you couldn't know, but as a guy who follows QAnon pretty closely, like, what percentage of these people who showed up yesterday and participated in this do you think are like at least kind of into the QAnon narrative, if not full blown Q lunatics, at least like they're buying a good chunk of it?
There aren't a lot of people who believe all of it. Those people wouldn't be able to feed themselves. But there are people who buy into various different aspects of it, right? But like basically what you saw yesterday was the Proud Boys combining with Q people and they forming an alliance and charging the Capitol.
Right. Yeah.
But like, if you have that picture of the guy with the zip ties, Matt, this is a guy who infiltrated the Capitol yesterday, and hanging off his belt. See those zip ties?
Yeah.
Those are to arrest the pedophiles and put them on trial. The deep state cabal that runs Congress, the ones who are opposing Trump, so the deep state can keep eating babies and shit. And you can. We can pretend these people are, but these people aren't going away just because Trump does. Like they'll turn on Trump, and they're already starting to. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but they'll throw Trump under the bus before they let go of this worldview. They'll assume Trump's been turned. The deep state has gotten Trump, and they'll find a new avatar to fight for them. And it'll be Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz or whoever else is willing to like throw out the code words, because they've all been throwing out the code words. Whenever you see a congressman tweet about sex trafficking, that's what they're doing. Sex trafficking, as the Q people understand it, doesn't exist. But they're throwing out these code words. Sex trafficking is largely teenagers running away and trafficking themselves in exchange for drug money or whatever. It's not little kids being snatched off the street to be delivered to Jeffrey Epstein's island. That's not what's happening in America's streets. But it's just like they're just so out of touch, and like I don't know how we could bring these people back to reality, because they're a significant chunk of America at this point, and it's spreading wider and farther.
On that, and I know that you're right, but what's the final count that we have like so far for how many people were actually there yesterday?
I haven't seen an estimate, but it would, like Don Jr. said 100,000. So let's make it.
I saw one that said it was like 80,000, but I don't know how accurate that was either. Which, I mean, like, that is an alarming amount of people, but it still is,
I would, if I was
a fraction of a fraction of like actual Americans. And I just keep telling myself that even a lot of Republicans and even a lot of Trump-loving Republicans are not at that level. In fact, I know a lot of them are not, because we've shared around in our group chats and stuff, newsletters and shit that like Corey has seen in Chickamauga that are getting passed around by churches, and they're mostly saying like, don't believe the lies. This was not Republicans wouldn't do this. This was Antifa, which is infuriating and stupid as hell, but it indicates that like they're not on board with what happened, is my point. Even some of the shittiest papaws among us are not on board with what went down yesterday.
I mean, a lot of them aren't, but I saw the first quick reaction poll I saw was that 45% of Republicans approved of the Capitol.
I almost said, even before I finished speaking myself a minute ago, I almost said that's probably a little bit because it didn't work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, had it fucking, God forbid, worked, they wouldn't be saying any of that shit. But
wait, I think the number would be higher if it worked. I think because it looked bad on the news, the numbers dropped. It'd be like
that's what I meant. Sorry if I wasn't clear. I'm saying like it because it didn't work is what I mean. Yeah, because that if it had worked, then they wouldn't be saying all of that shit. It's like when a football coach goes for 2 at the end of the game when he could have tied it up. You know what I mean? Like if it works, it's like, yeah, it's a fucking genius and they're all for it. And if it don't work, it's like, fucking fire this guy, get him out of there. I think it's a version of that going on with mainstream Republicans right now after what went down yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Matt was just messaged us that his crowd estimate, based upon his expertise going to rallies in the same space, was 40,000. But those are the people with disposable income and time off to travel to D.C. on a Wednesday. Right. And are passionate enough to charge guns. So multiply that by 100, you'll get an approximate number of people who like would have been there if they could, if they weren't like somewhat based in reality and didn't want to get COVID because
dude, easily, because I'm sorry, but just like to speak stereotypically about this demographic, they're, a lot of basement dwellers, neckbeard types, whatever, not known for having a lot of disposable income, as you were saying a minute ago, and also the type to be like, if I could at all, I'd be on the front lines fighting this war, but I can't because my mom's kind of sick and I don't have a job, you know what I mean, or whatever, that type of thing. There's got to be a huge percentage of this same demographic that like Q types fit into who wouldn't have gone there yesterday, despite the fact that they firmly agree with every single bit of it.
I mean, I want to push back against that a little bit because I think like the poor white trash people get a little bit of the rap for more Trump stuff than they should. Trump's demographic is richer than the average American, and especially the hardcore people, the ones that carry around $5,000 AR-15s. And the lady who died had attended a boat parade, one of the Trump boat parades.
To be clear, because I'm poor white trash too, and I think poor white trash people get too much shit sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, in my head, it's more like the adult children of middle class white people who have lived in the basement until they're 35 or whatever. I don't mean like the mechanic in Clay County or whatever that lives in a trailer with his wife and kids. That's not the
son of a guy.
I mean,
the son of a guy who owns Dick's Sporting Goods, who lives at home and got an AR-15 for Christmas and drives a brand new truck. That's what we're talking about here. Who joins the Cowboys? Yeah. But like a funny angle of this, we're talking about what criminal penalties they could face. Do you remember when Trump signed that executive order during the summer protests, George Floyd, to protect federal property and monuments and mandated 10-year sentences? So that doesn't really change the law, but it changes the operating instructions that assistant attorney generals are working under. So basically, everybody gets the max for destruction of federal property. So it's going to be kind of funny. They could face 10 years in prison under Trump's executive order. So it's extremely funny. I mean, these people continue keeping hoisted on their own petard. I don't really know what a petard is, but I like the expression. But check out they explicitly named monuments. And do we have that picture of the monument that they dressed up? They put in a MAGA hat.
Gerald Ford, right?
Yeah. Oh no, we don't have it. But it's a picture floating around. They defaced a statue of Gerald Ford, which Gerald Ford was president for like a year and a half. I don't fucking understand what this statue of Gerald Ford. But
I think it was just the one that was there when they decided to do the picture, the photo op or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't think there was too much forethought that went into most of the actions that happened yesterday for most of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're talking about them being hoisted by their own petards. Yeah, it goes so much further than just the monument. The whole entire thing that happened yesterday is the exact inverse of all the shit they were terrified of, and that meant the fall of American civilization in the summertime when Black Lives Matter was protesting, right? When all that was going on. Like, if the fucking Capitol building had been a target in Minneapolis yesterday, it'd be a different story. Not really, because it wasn't the same people doing it, but you know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is a flip-flopped, bullshit, hypocritical narrative from the very beginning of it.
And just like literal federal prosecutors, when Biden gets in, might not be as big a hard asses, but like federal prosecutors have a ton of power and a ton of discretion. And there's a ton of various different charges there. There's the statue of the, that's the statue, buddy. They defaced the statue. There's your 10 years. And then he Instagrammed it. But Slade had an interview with some former federal prosecutors today, making this point. Like the 10 years might not even be the max. Like they could get 20 if prosecutors really lean into a charge called seditious conspiracy, which fucking Elizabeth from Knoxville explicitly said into her camera they were trying to.
Yeah.
So pack your bags, Liz. But also like politicians, man, it's been kind of like the Wall Street Journal came out tonight and called for Trump to be impeached or removed or to resign. Even Mitch McConnell stood up and said, this is bullshit stuff.
I might get the name wrong, but you'll get the American Association of Manufacturers or something, like a huge manufacturing organization, sent a letter to Congress and Mike Pence asking for Donald Trump to be removed from power because, and that's like, I mean, that's that money talk shit. That's people that actually are pulling on the purse strings and whatnot. I don't know. I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves by talking about what you think will happen or not, but yeah, I mean, there's been a shift in the types of people who are talking shit about Donald Trump right now who would not have ever done so before yesterday, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, they feel like the fever broke a little bit. The funny one to me was like Chevron put out a press release opposing the coup attempt at the Capitol, which is like funny because they backed every coup in South America where there were just
Yeah, right. Yes.
50 years. It's like, no, we do coups over there. We live here. Don't destabilize here. Their kids in school.
That is also the exact rationale that a number of Republican Congress people had when the assault happened yesterday. Do you know what I mean? Like people that were gonna, like Marsha Blackburn, for example, who sucks, senator from Tennessee. She had already been on the record saying she was going to object to the electoral results or whatever yesterday, but then she ended up not doing it. I assume because at a certain point she was like, "Oh wait, that they might hurt me." Like Trump's not going to protect me. I thought he was going to protect us and everybody else is the problem, and then when it seemed like it was actually going to affect them on a personal level, which is always the case with those people, a bunch of Republican Congress people backed off of their bullshit. Not all of them, but a bunch of them did.
If you keep a big mean guard dog around, it's fucking awesome to have to keep people away until the one day you forget to feed it. Then what happens, right?
Yeah.
You can't ride these monsters very long. But it's been funny watching the politicians cover their ass because Ted Cruz was fucking riling these people up and promising them shit, and then immediately tried to say no violence. I was just trying to say that the election was rigged and was being thrown to illegal occupying forces known as Democrats, but I didn't want you to do anything about it. I just wanted you to send me money. And so he was fundraising off the riots, and AOC called him out for it and called for Howley and Cruz to be expelled from the Senate, and he called her a liar. And then she produced a text message his campaign had sent her. Ted Cruz here. I'm leading the fight to reject electors from key states unless there's emergency election results. Will you stand with me? What did Cruz think standing with him meant? He just meant send me $20. He didn't mean storm the building where I'm in and try to fucking kill everybody. But you need to be more specific, Ted. But another thing that made me happy today was this. Josh Hawley had a very, very bad day. All in one day, his political mentor, a former senator by the name of John Danforth, trashed him to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, saying supporting him was the biggest mistake of his life. The Kansas City Star, his hometown flagship newspaper, said he had blood on his hands, and his book publisher dropped him. So that's probably the one that hurt him because it cost him a little bit of money.
Right. He's not the only one getting who is excommunicado right now. Also, Mike Pence finds himself in the crosshairs.
They're getting it from both sides because the legitimate people are calling them fucking assholes, and then you got Pence, whose life is being threatened by Q people. You have the screen grab, throw it up. Blood is on your hands, traitor. Pence is either going to get Mo or going to be executed. Right? These are Trump supporters trying to get him murdered, and Pence still won't invoke the 25th Amendment. There's another. This also happened yesterday. This fucking guy. Okay, this is a really funny case. So this happened. This guy by the name is a QAnon shaman by the name of Jake Angeli. Right? He's a
QAnon shaman.
Yeah,
I mean, he is though. There's no better descriptor for what this guy is and does. But what a ridiculous
he's known as. All right, so he's
I know. Yeah, QAnon shaman.
So he was Speaker of the House for 15 glorious minutes. You see him right there in the will of the House of Representatives, flexing with his shirt off. He never wears a shirt. He always wears those bison horns. And so he immediately got labeled Antifa. All right. So he had a bunch of people online saying he's not really a Trump supporter. So this happened. This guy, a bunch of people turned on him. So this woman with 150,000 Trump supporter followers was saying that he's a climate activist, so he can't be a Trump supporter. This is a rally where he was there to yell at people for being
climate. He was there to scream at people for loving the earth or whatever, call them dumbasses and sheep and whatnot.
Yeah, he was there to tell them that global warming is a Chinese hoax, and so but they used that photo out of context to make it look like he's Antifa, and he led them into a trap. So he went online. He's been online all day trying to convince people that he's yelling at people like, no, I am a Trump supporter. I'm not Antifa. Syria saying, Mr. Wood, Lynn Wood tweeted that he's Antifa and he infiltrated the rallies. And Mr. Wood, I'm not Antifa or BLM. I'm a QAnon and digital soldier. My name is Jake, and I marched with the police and fought against BLM and Antifa in Phoenix. Look up ON's coverage of July 4th rally in Phoenix, Capitol. I was standing against BLM mob, outnumbered and unfazed. Look it up.
Matt, before you bring that down, I just want to emphasize a few parts of that. I'm a QAnon and digital soldier.
Yeah.
I marched with police and fought against BLM and Antifa in Phoenix. I was standing against the mob, outnumbered but unfazed. I ended up pretty much just reading the whole thing. But how, like, just the lack of self-awareness. Again, they approach self-parody. This is a man in a fucking, like, bison hat or whatever the hell that is. Shirtless in a bison hat, screaming, and he's like, I'm a digital soldier on the front lines fighting this all-important battle against black people and whatever else. And he's completely serious about all of it. And again, I want to, what do you think? And I know neither you nor I, nor almost anyone watching us right now could effectively put themselves into the mental space of a dude like this, I don't think. But, like, how do you think he's feeling, or how do you think it affects him for them to have turned against him now? Because we were talking earlier up top, like, eventually the Trump cult and Trump himself, one way or another, eventually they eat their own. They'll turn against you too. And this is happening to this shaman right now.
Yeah.
And obviously he's not happy about it. He's out there stating his case. But, like, how do you think that plays in his mind? Do you think it's making him see the light at all? Like, oh man, what have I been doing? Or do you think he's just like, no, brothers, you must understand, I'm with you?
It's like, it's like the mafia. You know, when, like, a mob guy gets caught and they immediately say there is no mob, right? So at least the mob gets paid. Like, you're in it for money. These guys get caught and get disavowed like they're Jason.
Yeah, I'm about to say, it's like getting disavowed in a Mission Impossible movie or something. That's what's happened to this guy.
The minute they fuck up and kill a cop, there's like, well, they, by definition, they cannot be a Trump supporter because they're anti-law and order. They hurt a cop, so therefore they're BLM and Antifa. It happens every goddamn time. These people will never learn. But I'm here to vouch for you, Jake. I know I've been following your work for a year or two now, and I know you're a hardcore Trump supporter, and I have your own words here to prove it. If you have that video of him playing in the drum circle, Matt.
Yes, let's please play this. If you have it, Matt, the fucking drum circle shit or what? I don't know. It's not a circle. It's a one-man drum circle.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one where he's doing his thing, singing the song of his people. Matt, you got that one?
Yeah! Thank you, President Trump! Thank you, Q! America! Land of the free, home of the brave!
Like, they have no spitters at all. You know what I mean? They got nobody who's got bars or something or is an orator like this. Like, who is moved by shit like that? I know it's just saying the same things people agree with, but I'm saying, like, this dude is like, we're talking about him right now. He's a high level dude on their side. He's their shaman. He's their guy. And listen to that shit. He sounds like a fucking 10-year-old.
Yeah. But, like, they're all turning on each other so fast. Like, and it's, like, kind of funny because a bunch of the president's followers they're turning on him now. There was an article on BuzzFeed today. The headline was pro-Trump activists who helped plan the insurrection feel betrayed by the president. And they're mad. Here's a quote. It's sickening seeing people give Antifa the glory of fed up Americans. they want credit for their goddamn crime.
Right.
They want
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not at all surprised by that. It's like it's like the thing up top where we're talking about what Fox News is saying, where it's like, okay, it was Antifa, but just so you know, it was a good thing that America deserved. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you do both things? Like, clearly, of course they want credit for fucking what, by the way. Again, they didn't accomplish shit, but of course they want credit for it. So it's got to be hard for them to spin it around and put it on Antifa.
You ever watch, like, the end of, like, a Law and Order when they trick somebody into confessing because they're so desperate to get credit for how smart the crime was?
Yes.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Right.
Like, just let Antifa take the rap, man. You don't have to go to jail for this, but apparently they're desperate too.
Yes. Yeah. a
It's funny
team of
what,
detectives across
yeah,
the table from these guys like Antifa. Absolute brilliance, right?
yeah.
The sheer moxie and strategy they showed in planning something like that. Can you even wrap your head around it? It's hard for regular people to even envision
No.
something like that, right? But Antifa, they pulled it off. And then fucking QAnon Proud Boys sitting there like, no, it was me. That's the Law and Order ending of this whole episode
Yeah.
here.
And it's they're even like they're even turning on Trump for being insufficiently pro-Trump, which is really fucking funny. And I haven't seen any react. Right before we came on, Trump released a video slamming the protesters for being not following law and order or whatever, and like the chaos, the typical speech he gave after the summer protests, the George Floyd protest. But he gave it on his own people. This quote was before then from that BuzzFeed article, but like, I just want to save the country. One guy said, I don't care who we follow, but I'm beginning to doubt that person is DJT. So, oh man. No, they're just rudderless right now.
Oh man, surely not DJT letting them down. Not you, DJ. Et2 DJT.
So we're probably going to run a little over tonight, I'm gathering. But before we get to the comments, I just want to real quick, like the Democratic response to this was at the beginning of the day was typically spineless and ineffectual. Nancy Pelosi adjourned Congress and sent them home without calling anybody, without calling any hearings about the Capitol Police, or calling the FBI to testify about QAnon and right-wingers, Proud Boys being domestic terrorist threats, without any of that shit, much less impeaching Trump. Also, if the 25th Amendment's invoked, apparently if Trump's not incapacitated, he can challenge it, in which case Congress is supposed to deliberate over it. So she started to send everyone home, but then she came out and announced and called for Trump to resign or be impeached. So I'm not sure where she's at on that. But it's been a real roller coaster day for Pelosi.
So on that note, and I'm not trying to sound defeatist or anything at all here. I'm just saying, like, I kind of doubt the ability of the government to accomplish anything remotely like that in the 2 weeks that are left right now. And I'm not saying like, oh, they should impeach his ass tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the glacial pace that any kind of government machinations move at, with 2 weeks left, even if they all decided right now, yeah, he got to go, I don't think they could actually push it through and make it happen in the amount of time that exists between now and the inauguration, me personally.
Yeah, for sure they could. They could vote today and convict tomorrow. They don't want to.
Okay. I mean, I know, look, I know that like, objectively speaking, they have the ability to do that. I'm just saying the way that the American government works with fucking anything ever, I just don't think they could possibly do it. I'm not saying they shouldn't try. They should do it. They should try. They should do it. All I'm trying to say is, Mark, I have no faith in them. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, I have no faith in them being able to do it, even if they all agreed that they should in 2 weeks' time.
First of all, they absolutely could. They absolutely should. I'm not going to let them off the hook by saying that, because that's bullshit. It's also like, it's amazing to me that Donald Trump is the only person in America with any actual political imagination for what leadership is. Trump doesn't go out in the morning and be like, this is a crazy idea. There's no way I'm ever going to convince anybody of it, so I'm not going to try it. He goes out and fucking tries. He tries to convince people of his position, and a lot of people go along with him. Democrats can lead. I swear to God, they can lead. They can make their case and convince people and win votes.
I guess
they used to.
No. I mean, you're right. It is letting them off the hook to say that. In my mind, it's more about like, on a personal level, or for everyone who agrees with us, that whole thing of like, hope for the best, expect the worst, or whatever. Like, I don't want people to have any expectation of anything actually happening, because there's not one single part of me that believes that it will. I'm just trying to be realistic about it. You're right that it is like letting them off the hook by saying, oh, they couldn't do it. But I'm just saying, no part of me is allowing myself to believe that any actual consequences will happen, because I just don't think that's how shit goes in this fucking country. It's really pessimistic outlook is what it is, but it's not me trying to let them off the hook. I'm just trying to say, don't get your fucking hopes up, is all I'm trying to say, because I just don't see them doing shit, man. They don't ever do shit.
I know, but like, that's why we're all gonna die.
I know. No, I mean, yeah, like, I know. I hear you. You're right. It kind of gives them permission to be that way when you just accept that they are that way. I mean, you're right about that.
Because this fascist moment isn't going away. Like, it's not. Yeah. Not going away with Trump. Like, Howley or Cruz or someone else is going to try it again, and they'll have more leverage next time if you don't push back. Like the good news is Pelosi is talking about passing a new voting rights act as soon as two senators are sworn in. So hopefully elections will be more fair and it'll be more even-handed, and we can downplay some of this fucking pent-up aggression that comes from having minority rule in a country that's like a fairly center-left. We have a center-right government. But like the experience of being like, just to be upfront about it, my politics are more left-wing than your average Democratic congressperson's. And like the experience of being a leftist in America is you're constantly predicting shit that comes true while everyone tells you you're a pessimist, and you're always right. And that's what makes us fucking annoying, right? And I'm here to tell you that if you don't push these motherfuckers back, we're going to have fascism. We're just all, and like, if I would have said the same thing 10 years ago, and everyone would have told me I was being a negative fucking Nancy. But here we are with people storming the Capitol building in the name of installing a dictator to be mean to Mexicans. So I don't know.
Okay, but dude, I'm the one who's being overly pessimistic right now, and you're the one telling me that that's the exact attitude that leads to this shit happening.
No, I'm saying, look, you're being pessimistic in the short term. I'm saying like, but optimistic in the medium term. I'm saying if we don't be harder on these motherfuckers to make them grasp the gravity of this moment, we're going to continue drifting rightward. Because like the history echoes, right? It rhymes, and like this moment has happened before. Our current moment of austerity and desperation and wealth inequality is manufactured, but it still exists. And what happens when societies get to this point is you have a choice between fascism or social democracy. It's what happened in the 1930s, and we ended up in a world war between the fascists and social democracy, and Russia playing both, switching sides in the middle of it. But like, if you don't try to install some sort of social democracy, we're going to end up fascism. It just happened, and it's like, it's not a coincidence that the liberals will always choose to side with right wingers against socialists. They will always do it, and it always ends this way. So if you don't push Nancy Pelosi to do the responsible thing, because her instincts, Democratic instincts, are going to be more timid now because they almost lost. But the reality is they need to be more aggressive to give people better lives, to give them better reasons to vote for them. The way you beat this moment is with stuff like universal health care and a Green New Deal. And like, this piece in the COUP is great. You have to try. Republicans don't govern cowardly when they only have 50 seats. They push for everything they want. They fight. So
I think and I know that they go hand in hand. It's one and the same. But I think the more important part of that is the second part, which is stop trying to placate Republicans. Like I've given up a few years ago now at that whole like idea of trying to reach across the aisle and work with them or whatever. Like after 8 years of Obama and then everything that's happened since, how much more proof do they have to give to you that they are not interested in doing that? They're not going to do that. No matter what we do, they're not going to do that. So fuck all that. Fuck what they want. When we're in power, like we just recently have found ourselves or soon will be, then you got to go for it, man. Go big or go home. Like you said, and the whole idea is that Democratic policies should make regular people's lives better, right? Well, prove that over the next 4 years, and maybe you'll see a shift in how people look at you in other parts of the country. You know what I mean? Like, just go for it.
Weed workers and wages, buddy. Weed workers and wages.
Absolutely.
I'll scream it till Howley's Gestapo comes and hauls me away. But it's just like, it's fairly straightforward. Like if the House impeaches, as soon as the two senators are installed, they can bring it to a vote, in which case put Republicans on the record, make them stand up that what Trump did trying to do a coup wasn't that bad. Make them vote on it, embarrass them, be able to make campaign ads about it. Missouri's not exactly a swing state. He won by double digits, but fucking embarrass the shit out of him. He's a venal coward. Make it apparent to his supporters. Make them feel bad voting for him. That's what politics is. Do politics, for the love of Christ.
Yeah. All right. So, normally we're right at where we would typically end, but we always like to take at least a couple questions or comments if we can. So let's see if we can get those in here from you guys. Producer Matt will skew them up if we don't have any issues. Tell us what you think. should be the approach going forward now? What do you think? How do you think the Democrats at large should respond to this horse shit that went down yesterday? In the meantime, while we're waiting on a couple of those to come in, my sister texted me earlier right before we started. Remember my sister Paige, one of our key journalists who actually broke the Dr. Dre news on the last episode of Weekly Skews. My sister said, this before we even started the episode, she was just upset thinking about it, I think. She said, at the Women's March, she went to the Women's March in January after Trump was elected in 2017 or whatever. At the Women's March, we were met with fucking assault rifles and rows of police and Secret Service, and they moved us back all the way to the road just because Trump could. We were super peaceful, and they had fucking bike cops and shit out there for the Trumpers. That's Sister Paige with her typical brand of articulate to the pointedness. But yeah, goes back to what we were saying earlier, like just the entitlement of this general group and what went down yesterday is a real thing.
Yeah.
Barbara Kelly says, lifelong disappointed Dem because they always try to placate the Republicans. Just stupid. Yes, I agree with you completely. And also, I didn't always feel that way, for the record, because as a liberal that grew up in the South, like, I kind of was, I think, conditioned earlier in my adulthood. I thought you had to do that. Like, my attitude was always like, I mean, you have to. Nothing will ever, you have no choice but to try to placate these assholes. That's just how it works. But yeah, I don't believe that shit anymore, and I haven't for a while now.
Well, the dynamic, especially in Congress, is like if you put Democrats will have the power with the Senate and the House and the presidency, they will have the power to put bills up for votes. You can just put a bill up for vote and then buy votes, Republican votes, by making concessions once the bill is introduced. The problem is they try to pre-negotiate before introducing the bill, and the Republicans still want more concessions after the bill is introduced, and you end up with nothing. That's why Obama spent 2 years trying to get a decent health care bill through, and it fell apart at the last minute. And then Republicans took Congress, and Obamacare had barely slid through by the skin of its teeth, and wasn't. It was like half a loaf of what they originally wanted, because they're trying to negotiate. They wanted a bipartisan bill instead of using their 60-vote majority to pass what they wanted. And we all have super expensive healthcare because of it. So I'm just saying you got to stop treating them like good faith negotiating partners until they want to come back into being part of the government. Because apparently, if you look at what happened yesterday and saw people objecting to the electors, even after an armed insurrection took the Capitol, they don't believe anything they say. They're not good faith participants in the process. They don't have ideological objections to shit. They're just fucking assholes.
Yeah, and like we alluded to earlier, I really think that now we have both houses of Congress, the White House, and all that. Like, use this time to actually push some shit through. And I think if you do that and you make healthcare easier on most Americans, you put more money in their pocket and that type of thing, I think even the ones that will still talk shit about Democrats still, if they're even outwardly they're doing that, I don't think they will, try to launch a literal insurrection against the very idea of our existing or whatever, at the very least in the future. Like, I don't see the losing proposition of doing something like that. Brent Winter says, what do you want Biden to do now that Democrats have the House and the Senate? Well, that's what we were just saying. Fucking something?
Yeah.
Just something. And I know how that sounds, but literally some truly progressive policy, push it through. I know that Obama, he had to start with Obamacare. He had to start somewhere. He had to do what he could do, and I get that. But just something, some kind of genuinely sweeping progressive policy, make that shit happen and make it last. And that's a good starting point for me. I mean, healthcare would be a great one to start with, but there's any number of other ones too. Student loan debts, or fucking some measure of gun control, or taxing the fucking rich. That would be a great place to start. There's a lot of things.
I mean, the first one I would start with, and they already have it ready to go, is a HB1 or whatever they've had for 2 years, which is just the new Voting Rights Act that should stand up to Supreme Court scrutiny. Because if you don't fix that problem, all these long-term, you tax the rich, because there are two main reasons that the American society stuns political scientists. Like, governments, societies like ours don't last very long in two ways. One, with this degree of wealth inequality, they don't survive. And two, democracies with minority rule don't survive. Even with a 50-50 Senate, 50-50 Senate, Democrats represent 40 million more people than Republicans in the Senate. That is unsustainable. I mean, you probably can't fix the Senate, but you can fix the House. You can try to make voting easier for people, so it's easier for Democrats to win the House. And so right now, Democrats have to win like 56% of the popular vote to win the House. Typically, that's not. It means Republicans can have a majority with 45%. That's not sustainable. It's just going to end up in riots. And
do something about the level of influence that moneyed interests have. Lobbyists and that type, big corporations, that type of thing, address the high degree of influence they can have on American politics. That would be colossal.
Michelle, right, by the way, Dems have balls in Georgia, and
yes,
they didn't campaign the platform policy, the policy platforms I would have chosen for them, but they did not run scared. They called Republicans out on their corruption, and they didn't spend their time explaining or defending themselves.
I mean, look, yeah, don't get me wrong. I think it's objective at this point, but the Democrats rose to the occasion recently and did what needed to be done to get where we needed to be as a starting point. But it's like now it's go time. You know what I mean? Now the game really starts, and they've got to fucking do something useful with this opportunity that they have. And that'll be what really tells the tale, in my opinion. So it still remains to be seen. Obviously, great that we fucking won, so much better than the alternative, but we're just getting started.
They need to put Stacey in charge of the DNC, of the DCCC, and they need to take her game plan and implement it first in North Carolina, because they already have the Moral Mondays type framework to go to work there. Because these states are not like they're not as red as the vote outcomes lead you to believe, and you can win on helping people's lives, even if you can't win on guns and stuff in the South. You can be like, hey, do you want legal weed and a $15 minimum wage? And they'd be like, yeah, okay, well, shake my hand. I got your back. I'm not a demon. I came to your door and I knocked on it. I'm not some pedophile, baby blood drinking pedophile.
Right.
Let's make your life better.
Absolutely. Start there. Let's make your life better. Try to make everybody's life better. All right. Well, that's it. We're going to call it. Went a little bit over, but we're glad to hear from you guys. Thank you for joining us on this dumbass to end all dumbass raps edition of Evening Skews. God damn, what a wild world we live in, right? Mark, you got any closing thoughts?
Buy a gun, get some cancer.
There you go. You heard from Smart Mark. Buy a gun and join us next Tuesday when we return, January 12th, for another edition of Evening Skews. Who knows what the hell will have happened between now and then. We'll see y'all there.